Hello everybody and welcome back. Thank you very much for joining me. A lost purse leads to a strange sickly creature in the Chilterns. Now, many people find it hard to believe that as a child I would approach other people and ask them if they'd seen the same impossible creature as me. Some people are reluctant to do this even as adults, and they also find it hard to believe that it would eat away at you as it did me. Surely you just forgot about it, is what I'm normally told. I've always tried to explain how normal it was for me to ask people, and how not getting an answer made things much harder. I was always hoping the next adult would say, "Oh, I know exactly what you saw. It's not what you think. It's merely a..." But that never happened. I don't mind these questions about my honesty. I understand them. And it's a very big ask, I know that. Now, as an adult, I can see why I wasn't believed, but back then, it was a different story. I knew there would be others, even back then, and I knew that I would find them. What I didn't know was just how many, and how the universe seemed to bring me into contact with them. And the next report's a prime example of that. One of the questions I'm asked most is, where do I find my accounts? Often I don't find them at all. They seem to find me. Somehow, some way. It's happened so many times now that I've stopped questioning why. I really believe in some of these cases serendipity is at play. The universe making her move, putting her pieces in place. A very good example of that, as I said, is what happened this week, starting the 3rd of December 2019. I went food shopping, as you do, and as we were driving home on our normal route, I spotted a purse in the middle of the road next to the petrol station, and I felt compelled to get it before someone ran it over, or worse, took it for themselves and just threw it away. So Mark grabbed it and we went to the petrol attendant, and I left my number on a piece of paper. Then Mark went around to all the local shops and the GP surgery, leaving our number in case the owner was local. And we were hoping she'd retrace her steps at some point and ask, and then we'd be able to get it back to her. Something kept niggling at me all day to find her, as I knew she needed it back for some reason. Sadly, that didn't work, so I rang the police, and the advice was to take it to the local station. But our station isn't manned. But something told me not to, in all honesty, and just to hold on to it until the morning, just in case she rang my phone. And it was just a gut feeling. So I rang the police and I left a voice message at the station saying that I'd bring it in tomorrow. And as I say, the station wasn't manned. And actually, it took them 48 hours to get back to me. And by then, I'd already posted the purse back. So my daughters suggested Facebook. So I posted a picture of the purse on there and obviously her name. And I asked people to share it. And it worked a treat, which was great because she lives about 35 miles away from me. So she was not local to me at all. So she messages me and said she was shocked that I'd handed the purse in, and well, basically that I'd tried so hard to find her, and she'd given up on humanity after an earlier loss where she lost everything. So as I was chatting with her through Messenger and arranging to post it back, she went quiet for a few minutes, and she came back about 10 minutes later and she said she'd checked me out, as she was shocked that I'd gone out of my way to find her to return the purse. And she said straight away, after seeing some of my articles on my Facebook thread, that 14 years ago she saw something close to home that she could not explain, and she knows of a few other people who have also seen it too. Talk about serendipity. It always happens like this for me. She had filled up with petrol in our town, well, the next time over really, and she'd left the purse on the roof of the car. I just know that purse had a little push as I was driving up the road. As I say, she didn't fill up at my petrol station where I found it. She filled up at a different petrol station the next time over. But here's a report in her own words, and we're very lucky that the witness kept a journal at the time, and she still had the entry that she'd written describing the event. And it happened on the 14th of the 5th, 2006. And she jotted it down in a journal on the 16th. And she put, a couple of days ago, it was a nice day. So I decided to get off the bus early and walk back home because I didn't have any homework from school or anything to rush home for. I went the usual route via the golf course so I could roll down the hill. I'd heard the big cat rumours from around the course, but I wasn't scared. I love cats, and London Zoo had already denied they had any escaped animals, so I thought nothing more of it. I thought the golfers were all just making it up for some publicity stunt, just to get more members to join the club, as they'd been talking about a cat being seen up there. Now, I never thought for a moment it may be real, and I was sure it was complete BS, until I saw the yellow eyes glaring back at me. But I've never seen a cat that big. He was either poorly or not a panther at all. He was mangy, like a feral fox, like the ones that visit Linda's. But it was about 100 times bigger than a fox. It was grey, and the eyes were not catish in any way. This thing looked more like some sort of love child between a wolf and a panther, but not cute and fluffy at all. It was really ugly. I remember it had a hump between its shoulders, and it was obviously scared and poorly, but what could I have done back then? I thought I was brave until that moment, but instead I nearly cried. I thought I could cope with it, and if it had looked like a cat, I could have, but that was not a cat. The 27th of May 2006, I bumped into a guy called Mike and his buddy George who were playing on the golf course. I told them about what I saw and asked if they'd seen it. Mike swore he saw the panther from London Zoo, but he said it didn't look like a cat. His mate said we were both mad, but I knew and he knew, and we both believed each other. 2nd of June 2006. The more I think about things, the less sure I am that it was a cat. I've been looking online to match what I saw, but I'm not finding cats with yellow or orangey eyes. None that have circular colour anyway. I am so confused. Was I seeing things? Maybe there's a gas leak making people go mad and I'm one of them. My dad keeps saying the zoos are denying it because it might kill somebody, but I think they're telling the truth because what I saw couldn't have been a panther. It wasn't even the right shape and it didn't look nice. Dad said that's because it's roaming, but loads of roaming cats still look cute and they also look like cats. He tried to say it was a murderer in a mask to scare me, but that's probably more true than a panther just walking loose. The thing I saw had a hunch on its back between its shoulders and it was upright on its back legs. As I was reading my journal back, it took me right back to that day. I remember so clearly what it was like seeing it, the feelings that I felt. I've never been scared like that since. I felt sick and I remember running and almost running straight through the stile instead of climbing over it. I was so scared. When I was little, as young as 2, I saw a wolf in my room every night. And my parents called it the imaginary wolf. And every night, my dad would use his imaginary lead to take it out of my room so I could sleep. I wonder if these two events are connected. His eyes are what I remember the most. They were the amber orange colour. When I think of him now, I'm always reminded of the lion that's on the lion syrup tin. Also in the area of Four Ashes Road, there are some other strange reports, but the lady in question that's asked me to reach out to Mike, if you're out there and you remember this, please get in touch. So as I say, there are some other strange reports. I think it was Flackwell Golf Course, I hope they've got that right, just below the Chilterns, near High Wycombe, and also in that area. On the Four Ashes Road in 86, you have a witness who saw a man dressed in green. He was standing well over 6 feet tall, and he was reported to have stepped into the road, glared and disappeared. And several witnesses reported the same thing. Now, not too far away, only a short walk away at High Wycombe railway station, footsteps on the gravel. The sound of someone walking along the stones on which the tracks lie had been investigated by several staff who expected to find a trespasser out there. No one was ever found, and the footsteps still continue to be heard. Something in the shadows throwing things, May 2017. And if you remember, the first report was in May also. I have camped out in many places overnight, and I've spent days out in the woods in search of Britain's large cats. I know the diverse habitats in the UK, and I understand how large, intelligent animals can stay hidden from people and thrive quite easily. I'm used to bushcrafting and nature structures, and even I am finding things I can't explain. Like the night in question. I'm not claiming it was a wild man or a cat. I am simply stating some very strange things happened that night that I cannot explain. I am curious though, because about 8 months ago I had a very scary experience while solo wild camping over some bakes in the valley trying to film big cats. So I'd set up all this earlier and I was just waiting in the hope of luring something in to eat the meat. I'd settled down at camp by the fire and I was sat quietly and I noticed I wasn't alone anymore. At first I just sensed it, but after a while it seemed like something would approach me to within perhaps 20 metres and then go back again. I could hear breaking sticks and ground movement, and I actually thought something was throwing things in my direction. It really sounded like something was throwing branches to get my attention, and whatever it was, it stayed just out of sight of the fire, and there were no lights, and when I would shine my torch to the area I thought the sticks were coming from, nothing could be seen. It was very strange, and I thought at first somebody was having me on. And it's a long walk there and back for a prank, but I was certain someone was there. I actually would shout out to it and bark at it with my best dog impression. I kept thinking it was a poacher. Eventually, all activity stopped and it went quiet, so I settled down for the night. Later on that night, I heard a huge bang and a crash, and I thought it was a gunshot. But thinking about it now, I think it was a tree limb being whacked against another tree. I got up and I ran out of there. I went back to get my stuff the next day. The camp was fine, nothing was touched. I was camping in the Chilterns, and I was in Mantles Wood near Missenden, Buckinghamshire. Now these reports are not much of a walk away from the River Thames and all of her connecting streams and tributaries, making a very easy route for something to move around in and call home. And as our first witnesses asked me to reach out to the gentlemen she met on the golf course, one of them was Mike and one of them was George, because Mike had also seen the creature, and she wondered if he's out there and would he share his story too. If you're from the area and you know of these incidents, or you know anything about the golf course area in regards to strange activity, please get in touch and I can pass on your comments to the lady in question. So thank you very much for joining me. As always, I bid you good night.